I'm David Henson. I'm Emeritus Professor at the University of Manchester and also work for Electron Eye Technology. I was at school in Sutton Coldfield and we had a careers officer who came round to sixth formers and discussed individually what they were thinking of studying and whether they were going on to university or not. And he suggested ophthalmic optics. After City University, we had to do a pre-registration year to qualify. And I went to what is now called the Institute of Optometry, doing a research project with someone called Janet Stone, who was quite famous at the time and wrote a very good text on contact lenses with Philips. And she was looking at whether you could control myopia by fitting children with contact lenses when they were sort of around 10 years of age. I was then thinking what else I could do and applied to go to Aston University to do an MSc course in methods of ophthalmic investigation, which was another life-changing event because I thoroughly enjoyed working with the people there. There was a group of about, I think there were 8 of us on the MSc course. It was a 1-year course, largely taught, but with a project. And I learned a lot about electrophysiology. To a recently graduated optometrist, this was a totally new area and really exciting because the technology was out of this world. And it led then to being really a desire to carry on and do research. I went to Indiana University to do a PhD. I was really keen to start up and was amazed at the facilities at Indiana University compared to the facilities at UK universities. I spent 3 years at Indiana University. I got married to an American. I did interview in some universities in the States, but there was a feeling that we should give Europe a go. We should come back for 5 years. I contacted my former tutor from City University saying were there any jobs available in the UK that he knew of. And he said he thought there was one in Cardiff. And I should write to this person called Michel Millado, who was the head of department. It was like a very new university and everybody was exceptionally keen. And if you get a young, vibrant group of people who are interested in not only just doing their research, but socialising with each other and progressing the department and trying to find solutions to problems together, teaching, etc., then I think it's just marvellous. So it was great fun. It was a time when doing research had much less of an admin overload than it does now, with ethics and approvals and things like this. We just did things and had great fun. I taught initially visual optics and optics and obviously eye movements, but what happened was that my interest switched a bit because we had a member of staff who left and he used to teach visual fields. And so I took on teaching the visual fields course. And at the same time, the department bought its first PC, which was a Commodore PET computer. The realization that you could actually do a field test on a computer was a sort of a moment when we thought, right, let's have a go, let's try and do it. Let's play around with this idea. And computers were very new in those days. In an American PhD, you have to do more than just do research. You have to take peripheral subjects as well. So I learned how to wire up, integrated circuits and things. And so when I came to develop Henson Screen, I did all the electronics as well. So I designed the electronics and wired up the prototypes myself, and then was also happy writing the programs. I don't know how we decided to call it Henson in the first place, but it's just stuck. One of the problems then that maybe doesn't exist so much now, but it was always difficult to get patients with glaucoma to come to the optometry department. There were patients in the hospital in Wales who had glaucoma, and I worked a bit with the consultants in the hospital. But, getting 4 or 5 patients or half dozen patients, yes, that was okay. But if you wanted 100 glaucoma patients and you wanted sort of a spectrum of stages of disease, then this was very difficult to do within an optometry department because patients didn't want to come to another place. I worked quite a bit with some ophthalmologists in Bristol. So I used to go to Bristol once a week and do some field testing in Bristol Eye Hospital, again looking at glaucoma cases. A job opportunity arose in Manchester. The post was created by the eye hospital. So the eye hospital was paying the university to employ me. They, like my work, had learned if you want to do this research with patients, you best locate yourself where the patients are rather than try and drag them over to the university. That was an absolute fundamental change in what you could do with glaucoma. But the eye hospital has about 20 to 30,000 outpatient visits for glaucoma per annum. We continued developing perimetry because we had the resources to look more carefully at the type of defects. And I mean, we looked, for instance, at the idea of using artificial intelligence to recognize different types of field loss. We trained neural networks to detect or to understand where defects normally occur and where defects that did occur, where they tended to progress. And we used that to basically focus the perimetric techniques on the information gained from that sort of study. So we were using very advanced techniques to improve the way in which we examine the visual field. But we also then started looking at the problems of delivering eye care for glaucoma. And what we recognised was we had a lot of false positive referrals to the hospital. So we had about a 40% false referral rate. And so we developed this referral refinement scheme where we trained, I think initially 12 optometrists who were in the health authority on what the eye hospital wanted. All other optometrists in the area had to refer through these optometrists. And it reduced the false positive rates from 40% to about 10% at the eye hospital, which was a big saving. And the saving meant that the optometrist could be paid for doing the refinement. And so the optometrist was happy, the health authority was happy because the costs were much lower, and the hospital was happy because it freed up spaces within the hospital. We set that up over 12 years ago, and we reported on it time and time again, wrote papers on it, and it led to the sort of development of similar sort of referral refinement schemes right across the UK. So there are dozens of them now operating in different formats, some hospital-based, some sort of community-based, etc. And it was dramatically improvements. Every retired academic likes to leave a legacy, and the legacy very often is the postgraduate students and seeing them progress in their careers and develop their own labs and have their own PhD students and things like this. And there are a number of students that I trained that have managed to do that, and that's very rewarding. I mean, I think if you look at how an academic works within a university, in the early stage of an academic's career, the thing that drives you are the production of papers, the obtaining grants for research, PhD students. These are the criteria by which you're graded and by which you'll be promoted on. As you get older, and I suppose have been promoted, your emphasis changes somewhat in the sense that you're now looking more for meaningful involvement, meaningful sort of deliverables that you can say, I've worked in here and I've made this contribution. What you're looking for are the types of development where you can sit back at my time in life and say, well, that screener really did change the way optometrists practice and did really produce some very positive outcomes with regards to detecting disease at the stage when treatment is much less invasive and has much better long-term outcomes. And then looking at referral refinement criteria and the management of disease in hospitals, looking to say this really did produce the improvements that I think are very positive.